I spent 14 days on an island hopping tour in Greece with Rose Scholar, and it was an amazing journey. So, in an attempt to capture it all, I created this 4-part video series to share all the high-level details with you. In video 1 of this 4-part video series, I covered days 1 through 3 of my trip. In video 2, I covered days 4 through 7. In video 3, I covered days 8 through 11. Finally, in this last video, video 4, I'll cover our last days, days 12 through 14, which will cover our time in Gortyna, Phistos, Voi, Matala, Rethymnon, Hania, and then finally back to Athens on our overnight ferry. If you haven't yet watched videos 1, 2, or 3, be sure to visit the playlist in the description of this video. You don't want to miss it. Alas, let's get started. Day 12 included 2 quick stops at archaeological sites and a stop at an ethnological museum before finally stopping for lunch in a hippie beach town which presented an opportunity for swimming. Because the sites were at different sites all over the island, we spent a lot of the morning riding on a charter bus. By the time we ended the day at the beach town, we had driven more than 60 kilometers south away from our hotel in Heraklion to the other side of the island of Crete. But let's dig a bit more into what we did and saw on this day. Our first visit was to the ancient city of Gortyna, once one of the most important cities in Crete, which holds a history of more than 6,000 years. This site is believed to be the birthplace of European civilization, as legend holds that this is where Zeus kidnapped and had an affair with Princess Europa, the namesake of the continent. We learned that from this affair, Europa gave birth to the 3 Minoan kings of Crete, Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Sarpedon. Hopefully I said those names right. Besides its link to mythology, Gortyna is also famous for its Gorthan Code, discovered in the 19th century, which is the oldest and most complete example of ancient Greek law. After visiting Gortyna, we made our way to Voi and explored the Voi Ethnological Museum. This museum weaves the customs and traditions of the island of Crete, celebrating daily life on the island through exhibits that showcase food, architecture, and art. As we walked through the town, we encountered the remains of old Venetian houses that were either destroyed by past earthquakes or the bombardment of Nazi Germany's invasion during World War II. After visiting Voi, we made our way towards the archaeological site of Phistos. This site is believed to be the second largest city of Minoan Crete. It provided a fantastic view of the mountains in the east of the island and the small villages of the south. Just as Naoussa is believed to be the home of legendary King Minos, Phistos is believed to be the home of ancient King Rhadamanthus. Before making our way back north on the island, we visited the cool little beach town of Matala. The town of Matala has the look and feel of old school America late 1960s and early 70s hippie era. The story is that many hippies came to the area as guests, lived in the local caves, and gathered around bonfires nightly for community meals. As we walked through the town, we saw the common paintings of the era, including the infamous peace signs and Bob Marley paintings. We ate lunch together at a local taverna and then had about 2.5 hours of beach time. After our beach time, we returned to Heraklion, Crete on a 1-hour return trip back to our hotel, where we once again had dinner before ending our activities for the day. After dinner, some road scholars explored the town of Heraklion a bit more while my wife and I retired for the night. The next day, we spent a lot of time on the bus. Our morning started at 8:45 a.m., but I made sure to get to the local gym in Heraklion by 7 a.m. to start the upcoming long day. Our first activity, so to speak, was an 1.5-hour bus ride from Heraklion to the old town of Rethymnon, one of the few preserved Renaissance cities in all of Greece. Because of a well-needed rest stop, although we left Heraklion at 9 a.m., we didn't arrive at the town of Rethymnon until around 11 a.m. Once there, we had a walking lecture about the town as we gazed at the stunning architecture of the area that bears a strong Venetian and Ottoman influence and style. The town has a bustling tourist scene filled with small boutique restaurants along its bay, along with a historical Venetian lighthouse landmark. There were also many other items of interest to see, such as several Venetian castles, Venetian fortresses, a famous Ottoman-era mosque built in 1890, and the Venetian fountain built in 1626. Walking off the beaten path revealed marvelous side streets which provided great photo opportunities. During our walking tour, we even stopped at the local baker's shop to see him perform his craft of rolling, kneading, and preparing bread that sold to other local restaurants in the region. After our walking lecture, we were given about 2 hours to explore the town on our own and find lunch, much like the other times we were given free time to explore towns on our own. After lunch, we once again gathered for another 1-hour bus ride that took us further west on the island to the town of Hania. Hania is another port town with narrow streets and a strong Venetian influence. Again, we were given a walking tour to learn about the town's historical significance and saw several of the town's historical landmarks, including the old ship harbor and its lighthouse. After our walking tour, we were once again given free time to explore the town on our own before meeting again as a group for dinner at Apostolos, a local restaurant. Finally, after dinner, we gathered on our bus for about a 20-minute ride east to the town of Suda, the city which houses a large US and NATO presence. This is where we said goodbye to our Cycladic island hops and boarded our 9-hour overnight ferry from the island of Crete back to Athens on mainland Greece. The ferry ride itself was comfortable, and in contrast to our previous ferry ride to get to the island of Crete, it was pure heaven. All Rhodes Scholars were booked in cabin rooms, which without context doesn't seem like much. But there were many people on the same ferry as us without cabin level rooms. Anyone without a cabin, which was probably the other 90% of the people on the ship, had either an assigned seat in a certain section of the ship or a non-assigned seat in a find a seat where you can kind of status. Either way, those folks had to either sleep in their chairs or on benches, while us folks in cabin level rooms had privacy, beds, and best of all, showers. Now, I won't lie, the beds themselves weren't very comfortable for someone like me who prefers soft rather than firm mattresses, but that was a very small inconvenience. After a very smooth and comfortable overnight ferry ride, we finally reached the port of Paros on mainland Greece around 6 a.m. Most of the passengers immediately disembarked by 6:30 a.m., but us Rhodes Scholars followed our schedule and met at the ferry's reception area around 7 a.m. We all hopped on the bus and took a 20-minute ride back to the hotel where we first started our 14-day journey at the Acropolis Select. Because we arrived at the hotel so early, our rooms were not ready, so we were given 2 hours to eat breakfast at the hotel before gathering for the first of our day's activities, the National Archeological Museum in Athens. After breakfast, we hopped on a bus and took the 20-minute ride to the museum while learning more about Athens and its government. Finally, we made it to the museum that holds one of the richest collections of artifacts from Greek antiquity in the world. It showcases more than 20,000 pieces of artifacts from multiple archaeological sites in the country. As usual, our tour guide provided excellent context to mostly everything we saw together as a group. If we had enough time, I'm sure he would have explained everything. He was just that good. But alas, we were given free time to explore a lot more of the museum on our own. Having been to many of the archaeological sites where the artifacts were found during our 14-day trip, this museum was a perfect final activity. I had a pleasurable experience knowing not only more about the artifact I was looking at, but but also knowing I had been to the exact location where it was discovered, which was especially satisfying for someone like me, a person with a skeptic personality. The highlight of this activity was me getting into trouble though, not only once, but twice. The first time, I apparently disrespected the museum by posing next to one of the Greek statues. I was just trying to point out how the statue was a splitting image of my body's frame. One of the museum's workers yelled at me that said, "Hey, no posing!" But luckily, it was after my wife had already taken the picture. The next time I got into trouble was with another Rhodes Scholar. So check this picture out. I'll give you a few seconds. What do you think is going on here? Well, we were told that it's a carved image of runners. Me and another Rhodes Scholar disagreed. We were like, "Man, they are dancing." And we immediately started busting moves in the museum, trying to imitate the dancing that we had saw in the artifact. Well, apparently that wasn't acceptable to one of the other tour guides, so he clapped his hands at us and told us not to disrespect the museum. I didn't realize museums were such a sacred place. I mean, what's the point of going to them if you can't have a bit of fun? Oh well. After our exploration of the museum, we all took a bus back to our hotel and waited just a bit in the lobby before learning most of our rooms were ready. Around 2 p.m., everyone had their rooms and we had a bit of free time to freshen up and explore more of Athens on our own before finally gathering for a bittersweet farewell meeting and then dinner. During our farewell gathering, we all shared our favorite stories about our 14-day island hopping around the island of Greece. And everyone overwhelmingly pointed out how much they appreciated the expert knowledge, personal interweaving of stories, care, consideration, respect, and patience that our tour guide had for us. He really was the cherry on top of this Rhodes Scholar experience. Finally, we walked from our hotel to the restaurant of our last meal. It was bittersweet, really. When we started the trip, no one knew a thing about anyone else, except for the people who we had traveled with. But during our 14 days, we saw and took care of each other every day, dined together, shared amazing stories, laughed, danced, became bodies, and ultimately became a family. It's quite sad that we probably will never see each other again. Who you travel with is just as important, if not more important, than where you go and what you do when traveling, because they can easily turn what should be a great experience into one of your worst. I'm glad this didn't happen for me. So it's my hope that the memories we created will stay with us forever and be especially cemented through our 14-day Greece learning expedition. And I hope it was very informative for you as well. It captures our amazing adventure, and I hope you can experience the same interconnectedness on your next adventure as well. And that's that. My 14-day travel experience island hopping through Greece. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, if you're interested in learning about my next adventures, be sure to subscribe to my channel so you'll see them as they pop up in your feed. Not that you care, but it's a really expensive hobby in terms of money and time to travel and then document these trips. You know any way I can get paid to keep this going? If you do, be sure to let me know in the comments. Until next time, thank you for watching and putting up with my cheesy commentary. And always remember, go out and go travel. You have everywhere to go see.